Hi, everybody. Welcome to Andrea Speaks Out. My name is Andrea, and today we're discussing how to speak to your children about sexual abuse. For our children, I think of like fire drills and lockdown drills. My son just had an active shooter drill at his school recently. I think of health and wellness prevention programs, but I don't automatically think of sexual abuse prevention that's being easily accessible to children and families. And the truth is that it is much more likely that your child may be sexually abused than to become the victim of some raging fire. And so it just makes me wonder why fire safety is practiced so much more than boundary safety. And as I mentioned in my last episode, the good news is that many cases of abuse are preventable with education and training. We need to ensure that children and their parents receive the right information and the right tools so that our kids can be protected and safe. And this is why I felt it was really, really important to focus on this type of prevention here in this episode. So today is exciting because Andrea Speaks Out has its very first guest. Yay! She's the co-founder of the nonprofit organization KidSafe Foundation. And I've brought her here today to share some valuable, practical tools that you can start using today that it can just enhance your communication with your kids and help ensure that they're protected from the dangers associated with sexual abuse. So with imaginary thunderous applause, I want to welcome Cherie Benjoseph. Welcome, Cherie. Hello.
Hi, Andrea. I am so excited to be here and have this opportunity to talk with you and your listeners.
Yay. Thank you for taking your time to do this. I can't think of many things more important than this, so I'm really glad you're here.
I'm thinking that this topic is so huge and so important, and there's so many ways we can address it that I'm hoping I can come back. I'm already asking. Can I come back?
That you don't even have to ask. You're welcome anytime. You can weigh in. That would be great. Maybe we can make our own little panel. Let's see how today goes first. You might think twice after we get to the end of this and say, you know what, I'm never doing that again. But no, I'm thrilled. So I'm just going to ask you a few questions so that you can kind of share with the listeners about KidSafe and practices and things that they can do. So can you share a little bit, first of all, what is KidSafe Foundation? Can you just tell us a little bit about that first?
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
So in a nutshell, KidSafe is a nonprofit organization with our focus on empowering children to become powerful adults. And we do this through education, and basically it's personal safety education. We have an 8-week curriculum that we teach the children, and it teaches them a language of safety. So just like we have stop, drop, and roll, and we know that that's fire safety, we have a language of safety at KidSafe that we teach the children. And we also teach this information and skills to parents, all types of caregivers, as well as tons of people who work in all different kinds of capacities with children. They could be social workers, doctors, teachers, aftercare counselors, etc. So our goal is to bring out this information of how to prevent sexual abuse, but also how to empower families with skills so that they can talk about these things and just make it a normal part of their parenting. So we've got fire safety and car safety and sleep safety. We now also have personal safety.
That's so great. It's wonderful. So it's nice because I hear a lot of programs that they train the children. They work with children, but they don't always address the parents or the teachers or things like that. And you have this multi-level approach, it seems like.
Yeah, so our philosophy is exactly that. You really can't work in a vacuum and just teach children really anything. You need really to teach the parents and the people who work with children so that, number one, the parents can empower the children and empower themselves with this information to better protect their children, but also, for example, for teachers and parents to be aware of seeing any signs that possibly something has happened and then being able to have the skills to address it.
That's so good. And I just would think it would be so helpful that the parents or the teachers have the same language that the kids are learning so that they can kind of reinforce it at home. Because, we hear these stories where the kids learn, stranger danger, and they learn, okay, don't go into a van with a stranger. But a lot of times they hear it once or twice, but that's not always enough to reinforce it. And I would think it's just really helpful for the parents to be able to still practice these things at home. So I think that's great that everyone is informed these things at home. So I think that's great that everyone is informed.
Yeah,
the same language.
think about it. The way we talk to our children every day. We say, don't forget to say please and thank you when you're on your play date at a friend's house.
Right.
We want them to also have the skills of, don't forget, call me if you need any. If you're concerned and you want to come home for any reason, you can call me. And that's actually assertiveness skills, resilience skills, all of those types of things. But parents have to be on the same page.
Oh, that's so great.
That's how we work together to keep them safe.
That's so important. It's so wonderful to hear it. When you work with the children in the schools, you don't have to go into too much detail, but you said you work 8 weeks with the children. What does that look like? Like, do you talk in assemblies? Do you go into the classroom?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So we have, I shouldn't really say 8 week because it doesn't always end up being children week because it doesn't always end up being 8 weeks. We have 8 lessons.
Okay.
They're 30-minute lessons that we teach the children in the school setting during the school day. And we start with age 4-year-olds, the children who are going to be heading into kindergarten. And we're focused now on early childhood. So it's 4-year-olds through 2nd grade.
Nice.
And the idea is that early intervention, both with the children and with the parents, is said to get the best results. Can you teach your children when they're older? Of course.
Yeah.
But it's great to start young.
So can you share with us a little bit about what made you start KidSafe? What gave you the idea to start KidSafe Foundation?
It's funny. I've had the opportunity to answer that question many, many times over the past 20-something years that KidSafe has been in the making in my head and then out into the community. And in my heart of hearts, when I look back, I actually studied to be a teacher originally. And so I was working as an educator, and I discovered that a lot of children were struggling to learn. And through that, because of abuse, because of trauma, because of being exposed in the 80s to parents who were doing a lot of drugs, similar to the opioid epidemic today, they had the cocaine epidemic and crack whatnot back then. And I ended up going back for my social work degree to help children in a school setting. That was my original cause. And then while working as a school social worker, I met numerous children over the years in both elementary and middle school level that really were struggling because they had so much sexual abuse trauma in their lives.
Yeah.
And they didn't have a voice. The abuse, of course, was going on for years and years, and they didn't have an opportunity, not their fault, to access help because no one taught them that. And so it really started out for me as a goal to give children a voice, to teach them how to access help. So I started out in my first version of KidSafe was at a middle school. Oh my goodness, over 25 years ago.
Wow.
Creating, a version of teaching children how to access help when they need it for anything, but specifically in the back of my mind was regarding sexual abuse.
Yeah. Did you get any pushback from schools back then in terms of discussing sexual abuse compared to now? How was it received from the schools when you wanted to, and initially, and even still, there's just so much resistance to addressing the issue directly from certain organizations. And
yes.
So I'm just curious if you felt the same way.
Yes. So I will say that I had an incredibly supportive social work supervisor, but I didn't necessarily have a very supportive school district when it came to what we are allowed to and not allowed to talk to the children about. Mm-hmm. I mean, everything was off limits. If you saw a child struggling and you knew that they were probably struggling with their sexual identity, you were absolutely not allowed to address that. If a child came in to talk with you about birth control or sexual activity, you were not allowed to talk about that. That was very difficult. So when I started off in the beginning, my first version of giving children a voice back in the day, we didn't really address sexual abuse, but we did address inappropriate touch, bullying. So it could have been physical, it could be sexual, but we addressed it without too many words back in those days.
Yeah, interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah, unfortunate. We have come pretty far.
Yeah, I agree.
But it's still, it is still from a system-wide perspective, it is still uncomfortable for many in the leadership. But I think that we've made progress.
Well, and thanks to organizations like you, like KidSafe, I think you're helping make the strides because you're just making it okay to talk about issues that are real and that are happening every day.
Yes, so. And I think what the important part of what we're doing here together today is that our approach, KidSafe's approach, is to make it a regular part of everyday conversation.
Yes.
Don't wait for it to be an emergency, that something has happened. Right. Just learn, as any parent wants to learn, what's the best way for my child to sleep, and I should teach my child swimming, and all of these things that we do for our children. That learning about personal safety is very approachable.
Oh, that's such a great point.
Learning about child sexual abuse prevention, scary. But that's not what, it's more than that. It's more than that. It's being able to bridge and have conversations with your children throughout their lifespan. Yes. About healthy boundaries, how to approach relationships, when to access help, how to deal with things. So our approach is very user-friendly for any parent, not because they are already in crisis, just because they are active parents. And approachable.
That's fantastic. I love it. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're sharing this. It's great. So you mentioned that you use a language of safety to teach the kids. Can you mention a few issues, a few lessons that you share? Can you share with them today so anyone who's listening today could actually use them with their kids?
Sure, absolutely.
All right, what do you got? Let's lay it on me.
I'm just going to list a few by the title that they are. Okay. And then I'll pick a few and we'll go into them. So when we say language of safety, it's similar to, like we said before, stop, drop, and roll. That's a language of safety for fire safety, right? So for KidSafe, for personal safety, some of the language we use is we teach children that they have a safety voice. And that's that little voice inside their head that helps them make safer and smarter choices. We teach them that they each have a circle of safe adults, and those are their important, trusted adults that they can go to talk about anything, fun things, sad things, scary things, all things. We teach them the difference between a safe touch and an unsafe touch, and that's not just about child sexual abuse. That's about being shoved into a locker by a bully or anything, physical safety as well as sexual abuse safety. And we teach them about good and bad secrets. So those are some of the language, not all, but those are the ones that I thought would be good to touch on today.
And that sounds so great. And just to kind of play off of what you just said earlier, it's so nice. I think I have so many parents that ask me, they're concerned about how to talk to their kids without scaring them. How do you keep it developmentally appropriate, your language? All of these things that you're mentioning, it's not really talking about sexual abuse. It's like you said, personal safety. So you can talk about safe and unsafe touch in terms of feelings and comfort level and things you're going to discuss. And it's easy for the parents. I think the parents have a tougher time than the kids talking about it. So let's talk about that. Yeah. Let's bridge that, because understandably parents do have a tougher time. Why is that? Well, we all each have our own different individual history of how this type of information was taught to us or not taught to us. Right. And most of us got the equivalent of a birds and bees talk maybe, and that was it. And that's not what we're talking about here. This is not about birds and bees talk. Right.
This is about general functioning in today's society. This is life skills.
Yeah.
So there really is a difference. But as a parent, you don't know that, until we tell you that's the case. There's also a lot of cultural issues. We all come from different cultural backgrounds, religious backgrounds, etc.
Yes.
And how our parents raised us has a lot to do with how we're, of course, going to raise our children. So sometimes we have to step back and say, what is maybe hindering us from doing the best job we can do in this arena? Because what was I taught that's not serving me well now? Or what was I taught that's serving me well that I do want to pass on to my children?
That's a great question.
Consciously think about those things so that you are not just coming at it when all of a sudden your child asks you a question that throws you off.
Right.
And you're like, oh, I got to Google that.
Well, I've gotten about 1,600 of those.
Yes, we all have. We all have. So the idea is that if they approach it by not thinking about, oh my God, I'm going to sit down and have a conversation with my children about child sexual abuse prevention.
Right.
No. That's not what we're doing here. We're empowering children every day by the way we speak to them every day. And that makes us an approachable parent. So when the kids need to come to us with things, they know they have a parent that can handle whatever it is that they need to ask.
Great. Wonderful. So do you want to fill us in a little bit on any of the ones you just mentioned? Do you want to talk a little bit more specifically about them?
Yes. Okay. I'm going to start with Circle of Safe Adults.
Okay.
Pretty simple. We all want our children to know that we're available to them. And we assume as parents that we are, that of course our kid would come to us if they've got something important on their mind. If they were they got a part in the play and they, going to come to us and say, oh, I got a part in the play, and everybody will be excited about it. But the reality is when our kids have something on their mind and they're scared about it, I'm failing a class, I had a hard time at school, I had a fight with the friends, I'm lonely, I'm, all the types of things that our children are dealing with from a very young age all the way up to 18 and more. We are not necessarily approachable parents, even if we think that we are. More often than not, we're on our phones, we're on our computers, we're working, we're working at home. Mm-hmm. We're busy. And we sometimes miss the cues that they're giving us that they do need to talk.
Oh, that's such a good point. Sometimes even though we're busy and we feel like we're letting them know we're available, their perception of us may be very different, saying, oh, she's just too busy, she's not going to be able to hear me.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's a good point.
So literally, verbally saying to your children, I am here for you. And this is not a one-time thing. I'm here for you. If you need to talk to me about anything, I will not react immediately. You will not be in trouble. We will discuss it, or I will help you find the answers. These are the types of things that our children see a lot more in the world than we ever did when we were kids.
That's true.
And they need our support. And I'd rather them come to us with these things than to their peers with these things.
Right.
So actively becoming an approachable parent by literally saying, now, you know what? You need to tap on my shoulder. And if I'm on the computer, you need to say, hey, Mom, when's a good time we can talk? I need to talk to you about something. Hey, Dad, when is a good time to talk? And this is a life skill. This is really teaching kids how to be at least 3 trusted adults they could go to about anything. They could be immediate family members. It could be a favorite teacher that's approachable. It could be their best friend's mother. It could be mom or dad's best friend, who's like an aunt or an uncle in the family. We want them to be adults. So we say to the little children who are doing this activity, they have to be old enough to drive a car because they don't understand age.
They think their 8-year-old brother is their grown up. Yeah, that's funny.
4-year-old absolutely will put their 3rd grade brother in the circle.
Right.
And help them define who those people are. So it's almost like having, for some families culturally, it's like having a godparent, mm-hmm. but it's someone who's actually approachable. They have a phone number for that person. And then we want the best case scenario is when the parent actually says, oh, that's wonderful that you picked Joni to be in your circle of safe adults. Let's call Joni and tell her that she's been chosen to be in your circle of safe adults. And then it closes that. So that person knows if my son calls, they're going to answer the phone and really be an available person for them to talk to.
That's great. That's great. Now I have just a question. Do you ever get
Sure.
asked, like, what do you tell the kids if they need help about one of those people?
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like if
Yes.
the person in
Yes.
their circle of safe adults, what if there's somebody that the child isn't comfortable about? Something happens with that person in the circle, because a lot of times, like we've said, people who are abused by people that they trust. Do you address that?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
So, unfortunately, I would love to say that yes, we do.
Okay.
So, unfortunately, I would love to say that our circle of safe adults is 100% guaranteed safe.
Yeah.
But as you exactly said, 90% of the time a child is harmed, it is by someone they know and trust and often even love.
Yeah.
So we do say to the children that if something happened with someone in your circle of safe adults and you were confused, what would you do? And we don't say it in a scary voice.
Mm-hmm.
We just say it in a very matter-of-fact voice. And that's a hugely important piece of this, is that you don't teach from a place of fear.
Yes.
All the emotional stuff comes from what we know as adults. We know too much information.
Right.
So
Right.
literally say to the children, so what if someone in your circle of safe adults gave you a touch and you're thinking to yourself, I'm not really sure about that. That was not a safe touch. That didn't feel good to me. What would you do? And they should go to someone else in their circle of safe adults and tell them until somebody listens.
That's so important. Keep reporting, keep telling until someone
Keep
listens.
reporting until somebody listens.
That's great. All right, thank you for that one.
You're welcome.
Okay, you want to share another one?
Sure. Let's do good secrets and bad secrets, because that's a really easy one for parents to teach.
Okay.
Sometimes people say, I wish the concept of secrets could just go away, but unfortunately it's part of our language. It's part of our society. It's not going to go away. So it's better to teach something around what is a good secret, what is a bad secret.
Yeah.
So very simply, a good secret is a secret that has a finite ending to it. It doesn't go on forever. And when that child is keeping that secret, they're excited about it. They're happy. It's something fun. It's something that makes them feel good. And we ask the children, how do you feel? How do you feel when you're keeping that type of secret? And they'll say, maybe a little nervous that I might spill the beans. But they wouldn't get in trouble if they spilled the beans. Okay. They feel proud that they were asked to keep the secret. Yeah. Here's a good example. Here's a good example of one of those types of secrets. Here's a good example of one of those types of secrets. It's my daughter's birthday coming up. And I say to my son, hey, Yoni, let's go to Target and pick out a gift for your sister. You'll pick it out. You get to wrap it. We're going to hide it in the closet for a week. And then next week when it's her birthday, you get to give it to her. How's he going to feel?
He's going to be excited.
Yeah, happy, excited, proud, etc. He knows that it ends.
Right.
And he knows that it's not the end of the world if he spilled the beans in the meantime because he was so overly excited about it.
And he's not going to feel uncomfortable or scared or confused. And that's
Correct.
so important. I think that's a wonderful distinction. Kids can understand weird or scared. They understand that. That's concrete.
Oh, that's certainly
That's great.
So on the other hand, so you've got good secrets and bad secrets. You have bad secrets. So what's a bad secret? A bad secret is something a child is holding within themselves. Something that's on their mind, holding within themselves, something that's on their mind that makes them feel worried, scared, uncomfortable, afraid to tell, weird, yucky. These are all the words that the children give to us.
Yeah.
And confused. And confused is really important. And what that means is, and this is really important part of this, it's not just, a bad secret is not just, you better not tell, or don't you dare tell. That's a very obvious bad secret. And we tell the children that if anybody says to you, you better not tell and don't you ever tell, that is exactly the type of secret they need to go to report to someone in their circle of safe adults. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, more often than not, a bad secret, nobody has to tell a child, you better not tell.
Oh, that's so true.
It is right.
Yes.
It is just an innate feeling that they know that something's really wrong here. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, like, this is not about child sexual abuse.
No, there's a lot of issues this applies to. I was thinking that.
Yes. Think about all the types of experiences and trauma and worry and family events that occur that kids are holding things in that then give them their own case of anxiety and worry and sadness. So I'll give you an example that has nothing to do with the child sexual abuse.
Okay.
Let's say a grandparent, God forbid, is sick. They're very, very ill. Nobody's talking to the children about it. But do you think that the children know that something's wrong in the family? Sure they do. Yeah. Most of the time they do. They just feel it. They see the adults are scrambling around, and all of a sudden mommy's leaving and going to the hospital, then daddy's leaving and he's going back and blah, blah, blah. And they're talking about it and what to do. And they think that they're talking over the children's heads. But no, the children are taking that energy in. They're fully aware that something's wrong. They might not understand, but what does it leave them with? Worry. And sadness or confusion. They're often afraid to approach their parents because then they think they will upset their parents by talking about it. We don't want them to hold that stuff inside. That's what eventually makes us all sick. So if a child is observing domestic violence, or they saw someone else being bullied, or they saw something on the internet they didn't understand or was scary, and that could be from a little kid up to an adult, right?
Right.
All those things, when they start holding all that stuff in, that's what makes them sick and unhappy and scared, etc. inside. So we tell children when they have something on their mind that's worrying them, that they don't understand, that's confusing, that's scary, and it could be a safe touch or an unsafe touch. That is exactly the type of thing they need to go to the person in their circle of safe adults and talk about.
And that's great, because a lot of times many children never receive that message that it's okay to address it. And that could solve so many problems if kids could just talk about what's worrying them.
I think that if we put this on the table, like literally just lay it there on the table in a very concrete way, it almost gives them this outlet, like this opportunity that if they don't have permission to speak about it, they're not going to talk about it. And that's why we talk about, that kind of goes into the next topic. Do we still have enough time?
Oh, we have all the time in the world.
Okay. So that goes into the very next topic, safe touch and unsafe touch. If we don't give children a language of safety to talk about touch, then they aren't able to come to us when they have questions or concerns. They don't have they literally simply just don't even have the language to tell us either what they saw, what they heard, or what happened. So we work with children all the time, and that's the feedback we get from the research because these things shouldn't be happening to kids. So this gets us into the next topic, safe touch and unsafe touch. And it is so important that we give children this language to be able to come up to a parent and say, hey, I got a touch that I'm not sure about. Or, man, I got pushed on the playground and it was absolutely an unsafe touch. Or a parent sees siblings going at it and they're like, stop it already. This is a safe touch family. You know, there's lots of ways to integrate this type of language into everyday life. But the key is that we're giving children the understanding of how does a safe touch make you feel and how does an unsafe touch make you feel. And that there's a difference, and that in our world, we want to have a safe touch world. So in the lessons that we teach, and parents can do this at home with their own children, we say, okay, what might a safe touch look like to you? Because touching is different for everybody.
Yeah.
And the kids will say, oh, I like cuddling on the couch and, watching a movie with my family, cuddling on the couch. I like to read a story and cuddle with my big brother, my big sister. I like holding hands with my friends. Those are all types of things that the feedback we get from children. And then we say, well, how does that touch make you feel? And they'll say things like, of course, I always say happy is always the easiest one first.
Right.
But comfortable, cozy, warm, loved, safe. Those are the types of words we're looking for to describe a safe touch. So some parents say to me, my kid just really is not a cuddly, huggy person. And I say, okay, that's okay. And that's their prerogative. So honor that and respect that and give them what they need in the way that that they want it in a comfortable way, and talk to them about it. Talk to them about it.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
then
that's the
we
key
have
part. Sorry to jump in, but just and talk
Sure.
to them about that. If you can acknowledge, like, how does it feel if I give you a hug? Let them answer. Instead of it being your agenda, let them say, I don't really like it when we hug. Okay, that's really good for me to know. How do you like it if we do a high five? Oh, I like that better. So that you both have this working dialogue about it, and that they don't
Yes.
feel like anything's wrong with them. I think that's really important.
Absolutely. I think that's so important.
Yeah.
So then on the other side of the safe touch, you have an unsafe touch. So an unsafe touch, and this is in our children's book, it shows lots of pictures. It's like being pushed, being shoved by somebody, your hair getting pulled, regular, normal things that you would think about that don't feel very good. Right? And we ask the children, well, how do unsafe touches feel? And they give us a litany a mile long
Yeah.
of all types of negative feelings, all types of negative feelings. And it's sort of sad because there's so many, that's so much more apparent to them, all the negative feelings versus all the positive feelings.
Wow. Isn't that true?
It's part of our society, I think. So
Yeah.
that's a whole nother discussion for us someday. But typical, uncomfortable, sad, mad, angry, confused, weird, yucky,
Hurt.
hurt, depressed. In today's day and age, they use the word anxious, and they could be as young as 4 years old. And the fact that they even know that word is so sad. But that's important for them to be able to label a touch, how it makes them feel, and then to understand there's a difference between a safe touch and unsafe touch, then what to do about it. Most of the time, we want children just dealing with their own stuff. We don't want to be helicopter parents. We don't want to be running after every little argument these children have together. Mm-hmm. We want them to be able to deal with these things themselves. But we also want them to know that there's a line of what is something they can do with, and then when an adult actually needs to intervene in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah,
So
and that's good distinction.
Yeah, so the next step in safe and unsafe touch is teaching children about their private parts. Very simply, private parts are the parts of your body that are covered by your bathing suit.
I love that. When I learned that, I was so mad I didn't learn it when I was raising my son when he was little. It's so much more simple than getting into it's just so clear for the parent to say, and as well as for the child to understand. I love that.
So concrete,
Yes.
It's a great place to start. It doesn't feel uncomfortable. It's logical, So you teach them that their private parts are the parts of their body covered by their bathing suit. We beg and ask and almost, I wish I could mandate parents to teach their children the proper names for their body parts.
Yes.
An elbow is an elbow part.
Yes.
An elbow is an elbow. A penis is a penis.
It's amazing how many people have a difficult time saying the actual names. They really do.
Yeah, and I'm saying it on your podcast, loud and clear.
Good.
I
Thank
don't
you
know
for
if this
that.
is going to be now rated R, but the whole point is that if we, and this goes back to that conversation before about being approachable, if we're uncomfortable as parents, caregivers, and all the other people who we are and to serve children, then we need to get comfortable because children will read our body language right off the bat. And if they see that we're uncomfortable talking about the fact that a child has a rash on their private parts, they're not going to approach their parent about it.
Right.
And that's not okay. So now you've made it shameful or uncomfortable. And once you bring shame and discomfort into this whole conversation, we've cut off the communication.
Oh, it's such a good point.
The positive moving forward. So if you're uncomfortable parent out there and you're hearing the word penis or vagina or vulva or buttocks or breasts, testicles, I'm trying to think of someone, then
covers it.
Go in front of a mirror and say that word 100, 150 times until it has zero meaning. It sounds like elbow, it sounds like knee, it sounds like penis, it sounds like anything.
That's great. It's so true. Because then the child will follow suit. The child will follow suit. No big deal. And that it just can have a wonderful ripple effect if they're comfortable.
It is so worth it. It is so worth it to do a little of our own delving into our own, I don't know how I say this, our own history and what we were taught, and then kind of undo a little bit about the stigma that we were raised with. Because we were. I mean,
and
we all
shame.
have it.
And there's shame. There's just this inherent shame that was kind of given to many of us around just having body parts like that,
Exactly. So a huge piece to this puzzle is for any parent, nurse, teacher, etc., who serves children in any capacity to make a point of delving within and getting more comfortable to be able to get out of that concept of shame or discomfort or embarrassment by talking about life and body parts and sexuality and all the things that go with it.
I think that's wonderful. I want to ask you kind of a follow-up question with the safe touch and unsafe touch. Why did KidSafe choose to not use the language of good and bad touch?
Okay, great. I'm glad you asked that question. So many, many years ago, I was actually trained in another curriculum back in the day, a long time ago, called Good Touch, Bad Touch. It served its purpose back in the day. It really did. It got us all talking about touch in a way that was helpful to children. But since then, through research and experience, we've learned that children can't discern sometimes between what I'm putting in air quotes is good touch and bad touch. So, for example, and this is going to be a little tough for people to listen to, but this is really important.
Okay. That's why we're here, though. I think they don't listen to this expecting it all sugar-coated, so it's okay.
Okay, excellent. So our bodies are programmed to respond biologically to touch. So in some situations, a child can be sexually abused, and it doesn't always hurt.
Right.
A person could be saying, I'm going to make nice on you because I love you. And my job is to teach you about your body. And physically, using a boy as an example. So let's say that boy is 9 years old, and that boy gets touched on their penis.
Yeah.
And they get an erection. They might be literally frozen with fear, physically, like sitting there in a car with their coach who's driving them home from practice, giving you an example of where and how that easily this can happen. And that coach touches that child responds, their body responds by getting an erection. The child is utterly confused because they love their coach. They're confused by the touch. Coach is saying it's okay, it's their own special time, et cetera, et cetera. Of course, the child's thinking, confused thoughts. They then are confused, well, was this a good touch or a bad touch?
Right.
Because the touch felt good.
Yeah.
But in their head, they might be saying, but isn't that my private part? But if nobody's taught them any of the things that we've all just been talking about, they don't have a context for that. And the coach doesn't even have to say, you better not tell.
Right. It's
Sometimes
understood.
it's understood. Sometimes he might bribe that child with, I'm going to put you at bat first.
Right.
Or whatever. You're going to get a spot on the team.
Yeah.
And that's enough to keep a child quiet. So
but he will still have uncomfortable feelings inside, most likely, and confused feelings. And that's why it makes so much more sense for you to focus with the teaching of the feelings rather than labeling good or bad. That makes so much sense.
Exactly.
Labeling good or bad. That makes so much sense.
Exactly.
Thank you for clarifying that. That's great. Okay. Did you have any other pieces of the language of safety, or did we cover them all?
I think that we covered a whole bunch today. I think that's a lot.
Okay, I think that's good. All right. So if you had to pick the most important thing a parent could do to keep their child safe from abuse, what would it be? Can you pick the most important thing?
Wow, that is a great question. So I would wrap them up in bubble wrap,
That's exactly
and I would store them away for 36 years.
36. I'm not keeping mine that long. I love them, but that's a long time. But bubble wrap, I'm in. I'm so in with the bubble wrap.
Oh gosh, I know we all want to protect our children from the world.
Yes.
Not just from us, but from the world. But with all joking aside, I think that the most important thing a parent could do to help keep their children safe from abuse is to really talk with their children on a daily basis not about abuse by any means, but to actually have conversations with their children that have nothing to do with just the regular day-to-day stuff of, did you pack your bag for this?
Did you
Do you
brush your
have your
teeth?
lunch?
Yeah.
Did you brush your teeth? All right, we've got this practice tonight, all the logistics of life. But actually to sit down at the dinner table, in this regard, I'm such a believer in taking the time to sit at the dinner table and talk about your day. What was the best part of your day? What was the worst part of the day? What was your rose? What was your thorn? Use whatever method, because over time in those conversations, children really develop a rapport with their parent where when they need to approach their parent about important, be it, I'm terribly sad because I lost the elections for class president, or whatever, to, something about, I received an unsafe touch and I don't know what to do about it, Mom, Dad. And that's making yourself genuinely available and approachable parent.
I think that's a fabulous answer. And you can visualize it, you can visualize developing that over time. None of this is a one-shot answer, but over time, I think that's great. So you mentioned some of the programs that KidSafe has in the community. Are there any other resources that you can share that KidSafe can offer if someone's listening to this and they either want more information about KidSafe or something else that might be able to help them or their community or their family?
Yes. Okay, thank you so much. So on the KidSafe website, KidSafeFoundation.org, there we have our children's books, 2 children's books. One is called My Body is Special and Belongs to Me, and one is called Jack Teaches His Friends to Be KidSafe. And this is our gift to you in a way because it helps you start the conversation. All the things that we just talked about, it gives it to you in a very age-appropriate, easy, developmentally age-appropriate manner. In each of the books, there's sections in the back for adults. One has a glossary of the language of safety with more information than we talked about today. And another has what are the typical questions that parents ask about starting this conversation. So those are 2 resources that are available on the website.
That's great.
KidSafe, moving forward, is going to be launching a portal for parents and caregivers where parents can go to learn about all the types of stuff that we were just talking about. There's going to be little vignette videos, all these different types of things. And I bet you Andrea's podcast will be on there as well.
Oh, thank you. That'd be great. That's going to be a great resource for parents to just go on if they have questions. They can just go on if they have questions. They can just, do a little search, hopefully, and get some answers. That's great.
Yes. They're going to be able to ask us questions on there and tell us stories. We want to hear the funny things that kids say. We want to hear everything.
Oh, I love it. And can you just tell us again the website in case people want to check it out?
It's KidSafe, KidSafe Foundation.org.
Great. Okay. And now I give you a little heads up that I end every episode with a joke or a riddle. So have you prepared a nice little one for us today?
I did. Yay. Are you ready, Miss Andrea?
I am ready. You're going to have, the audience is kind of quiet. I don't think they laugh very much. But I'm ready. No. I'm ready to hear.
All right, audience. Here we go.
Okay.
What do lazy dogs do for fun?
I don't know. What?
They chase parked cars.
Oh, my God. Okay, that's really cute. Oh, thank you for that. That's a good one. Okay, my turn. You ready?
Yes.
If I can get it out. How do you wake up Lady Gaga?
Oh, my goodness. You wake up Lady Gaga. I want to think about it for a couple of seconds. Come on, audience. Help us out.
It's really hard. I'm hearing crickets. We have no feedback. How do you wake up Lady Gaga?
I don't know.
Poker face. Oh my gosh.
That was good.
Isn't that kind of funny? Really oh my gosh. I know it's probably terrible. In case anyone doesn't understand, do I have to explain the joke? Lady Gaga wrote a song called Poker Face, Anyway. I just thought it was important to add jokes because laughter honestly has been one of the biggest factors in my healing through my days. So bad jokes, what are you going to do? You get to try somewhere, right? So I like yours. Yours was cute. Thank you.
I kept mine very child friendly. They can use that with their kids at the dinner table.
There you go. Thank you.
I kept mine very child friendly. They can use that with their kids at the dinner table.
There you go. Absolutely. That's why I'm trying to keep that too. So, well, Cherie, I cannot thank you enough for your time. And there's just such good practical information that I think is really going to help a lot of parents and teachers and anyone else who might be listening. I love what you do with KidSafe. I'm a big fan. And after this, I don't know if you ever want to come back, but you are welcome back anytime. I'm sure we can think of so many other topics to cover. So I would love to have you back sometime, share your wealth of knowledge. It would be an honor.
It would be my honor and pleasure. Thank you. It was a lot of fun.
I'm glad. That's good. All right. Well, have a wonderful day. Thank you, everybody, so much. If anybody has any questions